So my name is Alneng and I'm a co-founder of Ekkono Solutions, and we do machine learning for IoT. So it's sort of like putting a brain into each machine or vehicle and make it self-learning, self-adaptive and context-aware.
We had an idea about what we could do in theory, and then what we have done is that we have tried to prove that by practical tests.
So this has been a very unique collaboration, 3 parties. We have Alfa Laval bringing the domain knowledge to the table, FLIR bringing specific temperature analysis from their thermal cameras, and us bringing it all together with the edge technology that we provide.
One thing that was really good with the collaboration was that we got to work with Alfa Laval in their test lab, trying out the algorithms on actual machinery where they could induce fault faster, which is nice when you're that close to the industry that really develops it. We have had a few promising results also at customer sites.
The impact of this collaboration has been that we've been trying out our technology in real customer sites, which always give data that you couldn't expect and that you cannot reproduce in a lab.
FLIR is a sort of mid-sized company, not huge but not small, and we have sensing technology in world class, but in order for that sensing technology to provide the decision support in various of different markets, we want to engage more to add that intelligence into our systems, and we think startups is a really good way of doing that.
Okay, we can see, here we can spot a heat exchanger with a small mobile held camera. It is not very good, the picture, because we don't have any temperature, it's a plastic mock-up. The dynamic between the 3 companies have been quite open. I think that the people that has been involved are people that are used to work in this kind of approach, agile approach. I mean, not being too strict on or having a too detailed plan from the beginning. So I think the interaction between us has been quite nice in that sense. It has been a very open dialogue. And also the fact that we maybe made the homework before with good agreements on legal terms, so that we could speak quite openly when we talk to each other.
So the result of the collaboration is sort of a lot of things. One thing is to collaborate 3 parties, which when you're collaborating 2 parties has its own challenges, but doing it with 3 is even more complicated. And what's been very fruitful in this collaboration is that all 3 parties have actually put in a lot of time and resource to get to a good result. So we've done everything from lab testing together, all the 3 of us, to actually testing this out in a real environment with the customer. And this has taken a lot of our great strength as 3 companies to bring this all together. So the collaboration has been really good.
So, 3 parties, is that even more challenging? Let's meet Anders from Ekkono, Anders from Alfa Laval, and Katrin from FLIR. Maybe my challenge will be to try to go from one Anders to the other. So I will start by my first question to Katrin. To listening to your story, and Katrin, you told me about a aha moment that you have. Can you tell us more about how you met?
Yes. So a little bit of background. FLIR was hosting an innovation challenge in about a year ago, where we have posted one of our biggest challenges for the future, which is that thermal cameras can be used in condition monitoring applications of machinery, since faults often tend to generate heat. We posted that problem to our startups, but also explained that today's situation, these faults are found with a specialist in the camera, and that specialists need to know how to interpret the data. So we sat there in the jury room, we posted the problem, and Ekkono came in and they got completely understood the task at hand. So they suggested we use their machine learning, inputting our sensor data into that to actually monitor the condition of a heat exchanger. And I think this was an aha moment because they were already in a collaboration with Alfa Laval. And I remember our general manager, who was in the jury of that meeting, saying that, like, this is fantastic. We've been talking about thermal for heat exchanger for the past 10 years, thinking there's huge potential there, but never really like doing anything about it. And suddenly there's this startup here that knows the company, that want to do a joint project, and we actually have Alfa Laval in the project. And I think it paid off from start, as we said in the video, being, if you're going to do condition monitoring in heat exchangers, being with the company that knows everything about them, that has developed them, we could be in their labs doing testing and things like that, was really paying off from start.
Thank you, Katrin. And it's so interesting to hear, because in the chat as well, we can feel that this is for real. You actually had that aha moment, and it kind of gives me goosebumps when I think about that moment. And a match made in heaven, Anders at Ekkono. Was it the same feeling for you in that your room?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I might have to say that I'm envious of Sebastian, who managed to be there with you on stage, but I'll have to settle for this. Yeah, for us, it was extremely rewarding to work with two companies, best of breed in fluid handling, such as Alfa Laval with the heat exchanger in this case, and the market-leading thermal cameras from FLIR. And yeah, I see that as a match made in heaven. If you just look at the name, heat exchanger, thermal camera, that's a match made in heaven for sure. And adding Ekkono's edge machine learning to the capabilities of actually taking the data from the camera, looking at the heat exchanger, and then correlate that data to create something that we call a virtual sensor that can then tell you the actual health values of that particular heat exchanger at any given time, obviously paves the way to doing some really interesting things, such as predictive maintenance, order tuning, and a wealth of other things that you can do with edge machine learning. So the heat exchanger actually becomes context aware, which is really cool. But I think the beauty also, as Katrin said, of this particular project was that it was not just a gang of three who was working together, because Alfa Laval were nice enough to invite a customer to the group as well. So we managed not only to test this in a lab environment, which is good, but we also managed to test this with a real customer. And the wealth of information that we got from that and the knowledge we got from that, I think is really valuable now moving the steps ahead.
Thank you, Anders. And what about your value of this collaboration, Anders, on Alfa Laval? Can you tell us more about your story?
Yes, I mean, Katrin mentioned that it's normally you need an operator to interpret what an IR camera is seeing, and we have used those types of cameras in our labs and at customers for decades maybe, but with the possibility to find a way to doing that with machine learning in an automated way would open a lot of opportunities. I mean, we have more than 1 million installed heat exchangers in our customer database, etc. So I mean, there is a huge potential to dig from. Yeah.
And have you seen any unexpected values with this collaboration? Any new business opportunities or in the sustainability field? Can you tell us more about that?
I mean, one typical parameter which Anders also was into is that heat exchangers are used everywhere, and they get fouled from different debris over time, and you lose energy efficiency and just the value of that. I mean, there are studies saying that about 2% of the world CO2 is wasted by running heat exchangers that are fouled. So if we can get closer to that and address more heat exchangers and users of them in order to clean them in the right time, it's a huge potential of savings.
And Thank you. And for me, it sounds like the match made in heaven and that aha moment. Was it any difficulties in this collaboration, or was everything going really smooth from the start? Katrin, what do you say?
I think it went very smoothly. I think we came to an agreement quite quickly, and I think you have to be open to engaging in an agreement, knowing that the partnership in itself is more important than that everything is to your benefit on every line in an agreement. The intention of the collaboration is more important than the exact agreement, and I think we all had that mindset going into this collaboration.
And for you, Anders, at Ekkono, how has it changed for your startup? Has it grown? Has you changed any new field that you are working with? Can you tell us more about your journey?
Well, we've grown quite a bit, but obviously COVID has come in the way of growing as much as we would have wanted to. I think in some of the new things for us was obviously using thermal camera technology to actually use that as an intelligent sensor. We had not done that before, and that opened up a lot of new possibilities for us on how to use that technology. I think also when it comes to using edge machine learning, the brilliance of that is that it doesn't have any preconceived ideas of what we will actually find. So it will find what it actually finds. And in the end of the day, in almost any project, you will find things that you didn't expected that can explain things that you might have not known before. So that's always rewarding. I think we have that in this project as well. But I think working in this tight group and actually seeing how these two companies who are quite used to working with startups, so they put the right resources when it comes to product management and all of that, and also see the next step as putting it in production. So I think they have the right mindset, and that helps a lot when they collaborate.
Yeah, I was just going to say that about the open mindset that I feel that all you three have, and the resources, of course. But I'm curious about the time frame, Anders at Alfa Laval. Can you tell us from your first meeting, just briefly go through the project, how long time did it take to get where you are right now? And where are you right now?
Well, this specific project, I think we had a quite quick start together. I mean, we understood each other, and as Anders also said here, we are people involved that are quite used to working this agile approach without necessarily having to know exactly where we are heading when we started, but we had an idea. And I think the theoretic models and thoughts about what we could achieve was accomplished maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. And then we did some first lab tests in our own lab, but they do not reflect the normal conditions. Of course, the lab is not working like at the customer. So the bigger challenge was to find a suitable test installation where you had some type of change of the working conditions of a heat exchanger in a time that you could monitor over a shorter period. So maybe that took 6 months before we had those results, and then the interpretation was quite quick again. So yeah.
But that's
had to wait for some. Yeah.
That sounds amazing, and you get a lot of shares in the chat. And repeat what was said yesterday. 10% is AI, 20% tech, and 70% is the people. And I think all of you three shows that it's all about the people being open-minded and having a passion about solving this. And what about solving, if we look into the global goals and sustainability, we discussed that a bit. Can you tell us more, Anders, at Alfa Laval, about the global goals and how you connect with the future?
Yeah, well, Alfa Laval has a quite nice situation in the way that we are, of course, with energy efficiency, and it applies to maybe most industries. And then we have the other terms as well with food and water, which, I mean, I think is it the 17 goals? I think we are actively working with at least 15 of them we can, yeah, so it's a very important part for us. It's nice also to have another purpose and only to make, I mean, it's business, but it's also nice that the business has a purpose above that.
Of course. And for you, Katrin, how do you work with sustainability and the global goals?
So the cameras can be used for various things. I mean, in this application, we use them to make sure the condition of the heat exchanger is efficient enough, but cameras can also be used, since heat generation where you don't want it is typically an energy consumer that you don't want in your systems and something that's not good for the environment. So any heat we can find in all systems that generate it is good. I can talk forever, but our cameras also see like methane gas, which is an important part in reducing the greenhouse gases and finding leaks.
Thank you. And one question from the chat here about the timing to start this collaboration. Could you say anything about that? The timing for you as a corporate? I mean, we could hear for you, Katrin, that you had this challenge. Can you tell us more about the timing? Was it anything, was just that match made in heaven or the perfect time? What do you say about that? Katrin, you can start.
Yeah, yes, I think the timing for us was really good. And I want to say something more on this. I think this collaboration to some extent changed our strategy, because the value in having someone that could add decision support like Anders at Ekkono, and having also worked directly with the machinery that we tried to figure out the condition of was so valuable. So there are a lot more words in our strategy around partnerships than it was previous to this collaboration.
Interesting. And I know that there are many of these unexpected meetings when what we do at Ignite. It's not about having that clear strategy, what kind of startup to meet, but it can shift. You have to be really open-minded. And for you, Anders, at Alfa Laval, how was it for the timing for you? Was it important that this was just the right time?
I mean, we are just in the middle of this connectivity work to connect our products and create business and value around that. And I mean, finding a new way of creating a sensor from an IR camera, that is a perfect match in time for the, I mean, we are in the evaluation phase offering, so that was a perfect timing for that. Then of course the scale up is what is a bit more time consuming, and that's about to come, I hope.
And one more, I mean, you mentioned the intentions, and I will continue with you, Anders, at Alfa Laval. You get a lot of cheers. Congrats to your excellent collaboration. And can you share something about intellectual properties in another ways? Was it any discussions there or any agreements in the beginning of the collaboration?
I think, I mean, and I guess for FLIR also, we are, I mean, the people involved are quite used to work in a little bit more pragmatic way and having prepared templates, etc., to do agreements covering what is necessary, not trying to cover. I mean, we have not been talking about business model or royalties or anything like that and trying to do agreements around that. We have been focused on what kind of information we had to exchange in order to do a pilot, and then the next has to come after that. So that pragmatic approach helped to speed up. Otherwise, we could have been waiting for months just to get the signatures, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that. Katrin, do you have anything to comment on that?
Yeah, I think we had that approach as well. And we typically, I mean, we have very different products. The heat exchangers and the thermal cameras are completely different things. So I think if you are willing to stick to your expertise and the IP that's close to your stuff, and that the other part have the IP that's close to their stuff, of course, there could be something in the middle, but in general, that is a good rule of thumb that helps in this process.
Thank you. And my last question goes to you, Anders, at Ekkono. Of course, you know, I love to help startups to grow. And so what's your call to action now when you have hundreds of people all around the world looking at you? Is it any networks you want to reach out to, contacts, anything else that you want to have the final words?
Well, I mean, we have a really ambitious plan moving forward. We are absolutely certain that the edge machine learning will play a vital part in industry moving forward in digitalization. And we have the goal of being the leader in that. So anyone who has a challenge with that, they can definitely call us, and we will be happy to help them with that task.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, and congrats. And you, as I mentioned, get a lot of cheers at the chat for a great collaboration and an interesting story. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.